The game is over.
With a shot blocked. Everly in front for Schwartz. They score! Hey, hey! What do you say?
The ground early. Now the cross out to Nor. What a save by Fry!
Seattle sports fans, what's going on? We're back with another episode of the Seattle sports scene, talking about our Seattle Seahawks. Last episode, we closed off with talking about the upcoming Saints matchup. And since then, the Seahawks have played the Saints and they have played the Arizona Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. So we're going to first address both of those games before moving on to other content. But before I get too far into this episode, I realize I just totally skipped a step. As always, we are your hosts. I am that Kraken fan, and with me is Seattle Sports Season. How's it going? Seahawks are looking hot to start the season with a couple of wins here back to back to back. How are you feeling about this team right now?
Yeah, they played one really bad football team and one not great football team. And they beat the really bad football team by a lot. And they made the other game way closer than it should have ever been. That bad team being the Saints and the alright team being the Cardinals. I do think the Cardinals are better than a lot of people give them credit for. I think they're still building in the right direction, and I like a lot of the pieces that they have. I know there's so much stuff going around social media about Marvin Harrison Jr. being a bust. But I really do think that he is a very talented wide receiver and is going to continue to grow into his own. I still like what Kyler Murray brings to the table. And so, while it was way closer of a game in the end than it should have ever been, I do just have respect to the Seahawks for, at the end of the day, they were on a Thursday night, a short week on the road against a division rival, and it's never easy to win like that, and they found a way to get it done. And then the Saints game, you needed this game so bad just to reassert your dominance at home. And the Seahawks, they did exactly that. They put up 21 points in the first quarter and put up 38 points in the first half. 44 points total. Sam Darnold, my apologies, played pretty well. Ken Walker was not his greatest game, volume-wise. He had 16 carries for 38 yards on 2.4 yards per carry. Not good. JSN continues to be an absolute stud. The defense just absolutely gave the Saints a headache. I said the difference in the game was going to be turnovers. They forced Spencer Rattler into a pick. Sam Darnold threw no picks. We did have one fumble, so the turnover battle was even. But at the end of the day, they got the job done in both these games, and I was really impressed by a lot of guys that just stepped up. Really, I think that Byron Murphy is super underrated right now. He may not be putting up the best stats. I mean, he does have 2.5 sacks through the first 4 games of the season, which is pretty solid. On pace to have a 10-sack season, which would be awesome for him in his sophomore campaign. But he's just doing a lot of stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet necessarily, generating a lot of pressures, just being a nuisance. This front line for the Seahawks is really, starting to show that they can cause pressure without blitzes, which is something that we talked about in the last episode that we did, but also remains to be true. The secondary, they forced Kyler Murray. He was not great. He was 27 for 41, and they also had 6 sacks on the day. Granted, Kyler Murray kind of created some of those sacks for himself. He just doesn't really know when to throw the ball away still. It's something that he still struggles with. But in this game, we saw half a sack for Spoon, half a sack for Ernest Jones, half a sack for Josh Jobe, 1 sack for Drake Thomas, 2 sacks in a big game for Uchenna Nwosu, 1.5 sacks for Leonard Williams, and a tackle for loss. Uchenna Nwosu and Leonard Williams just ate up the Cardinals this game. Really, and one more thing before I turn it over to you. Devin Witherspoon really shout out to him. I know he didn't have a great game. I know in the fourth quarter he was kind of getting cooked by Marvin Harrison and by the running back, but just to gut it out when you're still not feeling 100% and to get on the field for your guys and to still have a pass breakup, half a sack, 5 solo tackles, 9 total tackles, a QB hit, and really to just get himself back on the field. Huge props to him because that's not easy to do, especially on a short week. And we really needed him back. He sets the tone a lot for our defense. I think him and Julian Love are really like the tone setters for our team. And so to see him back out on the field was really good for the Seahawks. And we'll definitely need him as close to healthy as he can be for this game against the Buccaneers on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you covered a lot, so I'll try to go over as much as I can without repeating you too much. But really, just I know I've echoed this in past episodes before, but just loving how the defense is playing. I feel like that what impresses me the most about Mike McDonald's defense is the ability to rush 4 and yet have the most pressure percentage in the league for any defense with rushing 4 players, which is just incredible to me. Secondary is obviously having their issues, but the next man up is stepping up, getting the job done. Shout out Josh Jobe, who's doing a phenomenal job in particular. But you got a couple of players who are coming back now who are going to be healthy soon, completely healthy. Obviously, Witherspoon kind of playing half health. Is Emin is his ETA back next week? 2 weeks? I think he's not that far out from being able to return.
I'm not 100% sure. According to ESPN, he's listed as questionable 15 hours ago, which is, I'm pretty sure, an update from he was previously listed as out. It doesn't really have who reported that or anything on here. But I would imagine that he's kind of getting close, but I wouldn't expect him back for this game.
Yeah, no one's reported it fully yet, but I do see that his status has just changed to questionable. But yeah, the defense obviously is just kind of doing its job, and it's awesome to see this defense do such a great job so far.
It's going to be a huge test for the defense because they've only given up 13 points, 17 points, 13 points, 20 points, and they're going to face a Buccaneers offense that has been clicking on all cylinders to start this year. They're also 3-1. Baker Mayfield's really played well. They've put up 23 points, 20 points, 29 points, and 31 points. And so this is going to be a huge test for us to see what we can do against like a truly like elite. I think the Buccaneers have a really, really good offense between Baker, Bucky Irving, and their wide receiver talent is fantastic. I think Mike Evans is out right now, but still, this is going to be a good test for the defense this week.
Yeah, Mike Evans is expected to miss some time. I would know. I have him on my fantasy team. I got screwed over by injuries this year, but that's a conversation for another time.
It's also worth mentioning that Bucky Irving is also questionable, and that would be a very big loss for the Buccaneers if he's not able to play this week. They say that he has like a foot or ankle injury. Still trying to gather opinions as of 3 hours ago reported. So I wouldn't really expect him to play this week, but he is a very talented player as well. So the Seahawks might have dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, our run defense has been great, but even still, you'll take as many blessings as you can. But yeah, in terms of like how the offense has done in those last 2 games, obviously we got the job more than done against New Orleans. And actually, I wanted to bring up in the last episode we talked about the Seahawks. One of the things that we had talked about was saying that we want this Saints team. The Saints opened their season against the Cardinals, then the Niners, and then the Seahawks. And one of the things that I had said was I want this Seahawks team to not just beat the Saints, but I want it to like look good. Because if I pull up the Saints scores really quick, Nope, not stats, schedule. There we go. So they lose to Arizona at home 20-13. That's just a 7-point difference right there. Then they go to San Francisco, then they stay at home against San Francisco and they lose 26-21. They score over 20 points there and they only lose by 5. And that came down to the buzzer. San Francisco scored with just minutes left in the game. Then they go to Seattle and no question, we blow them out and we beat them. We beat them by more than Buffalo beat them by, scoring more points and allowing less at the same time. So I think that was a huge. Obviously, they're just a crappy team that's not going to do much this season, but it's very telling for the Seahawks to not only put up the most points on them, but also to allow the least amount of points as well. And then you obviously have Buffalo comes right after them, and we still play them better than Buffalo did. So, but offense has been great. Darnold's been playing just how I'd expect him to. Kenneth Walker's getting to that rhythm and looking just like the elite running back that we know he is. JSN is just incredible. Torrey Horton's getting a couple targets. So, great to see the offense clicking together and all. I'm looking forward to that Tampa matchup. And my thoughts from that. It's going to definitely be, I think, the biggest test for our defense. I think Baker is going to do a fairly decent job at picking our secondary in the ways that he wants to be picking on them. This is going to be a test of. I think this is going to honestly be a bigger test for Clint Kubiak. The Buccaneers defense isn't necessarily really good or elite. But this is definitely a team that you're not going to be able to just, pound the rock and expect great results every time against. You can expect that against an injured Steelers team and 49ers team. You can expect that against an Arizona team with a kind of a talented but struggling front end. You can expect that against the New Orleans team. As you had stated in our previous episode, Kubiak loves the run game. He loves to get them intertwined with the offensive play calls. This is going to be a game, though, personally, in my opinion, where I feel you're not going to be able to just, to restate myself, pound the rock and expect great results. So Darnold's going to definitely have a little bit of a test this week as well. But I think there's honestly more pressure on the offense than there is on the defense this week. And I think Mike Macdonald definitely is thinking well in advance for this game. Obviously, you get 10 days off after playing on Thursday night against the Cardinals on that short week. So Mike Macdonald's going to have plenty of time to be able to figure out how he wants to be scheming and planning for this Tampa Bay team. And fortunate enough, we're at home too. So,
yeah, and we have a little bit of time left on this episode, as I feel like we've sufficiently covered the preview for Tampa, also what we saw the last few games. You kind of look ahead on the Seahawks schedule a little bit. This team really does have a schedule that would allow them to make the playoffs. You play Tampa, and then you get Jacksonville, who has not been good, and then you get Houston, who has greatly underperformed. Then you have a bye. Then you're at Washington on Sunday Night Football. That's probably your toughest game. And even then, they're an underperforming squad. Arizona again, the Rams, the Titans, the Vikings, the Falcons, the Colts, the Rams, the Panthers, the Niners. And so with already having 3 wins, let's say you beat Jacksonville for 4, Houston for 5, Arizona for 6, Tennessee for 7, Atlanta for 8, and Carolina for 9. It's extremely realistic that this team could get to 9 or 10 wins and put themselves right in contention for that last wild card spot once again. I think the Rams are going to pretty much walk away with the division, I'm not going to lie. I think the Rams are a really, really talented team. But I think it's basically going to come down to you and San Francisco, most likely, for a wild card spot. And I really do like our chances in that race to get into the playoffs in a year that that wasn't really the expectation from a lot of people in the general media. And I think for a lot of fans, we kind of expected that. But in terms of the national media, they had projections of 4 wins. We already have 3 wins and we've only played 4 games.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it feels like it happens every year. The Seahawks, I feel like, are very underappreciated and undervalued since the departure of Russell Wilson, and especially since the departure of, or really especially since the departure of Russell Wilson, plus with the departure of Pete Carroll as well. I feel like the team has not gotten the amount of respect that it should, which really I feel like is a good amount of, or is a great motivation for Mike McDonald. Because I'm sure, even though he doesn't talk about it, I'm sure he sees it and notices it, and it's gotta be a great feeling for him to just be like, you know what, screw you, we're gonna break
Yeah,
those. And I mean, we knew it coming into the season. Not one Seattle Seahawks fan, entered the season being like, you know what, there's a chance we could only win 4-5 games. Like, no, we're definitely winning. We're definitely going over 500. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you look at it, you should beat Jacksonville. Like, they're 3-1, but they really haven't had a challenge yet. You should beat Jacksonville. You should beat Houston. You should beat Arizona. You should beat Tennessee. I would argue you should beat Minnesota more so than Atlanta, but I could really throw in you could beat both of those teams. The Colts are a shocker. I marked them as an easy win before the season started, and now I'm like, if Daniel Jones keeps playing like Indiana Jones, that team is going to be a scary team to play week in, week out. The question is going to be, how good is their defense going to be? Um, and is Indiana Jones is Daniel Jones going to be able to continue to put up enough production throughout the whole season to make up for what his defense lacks in or struggles to produce for them?
hmm
Um, and I'm honestly not super confident that the 49ers team is going to stay healthy throughout the whole season. So I'm not too worried about that second matchup. The first matchup sucks. The Seahawks looked like the better team and should have won that game. That was just poor.
yeah,
It was just poor offense. Like, the Seahawks should have won that game. I'm not even mad about that San Francisco loss. We looked like the better team throughout the whole game. That was our game to win, and we lost it, and it was on us. It wasn't. Yeah, I'm not worried about that game. We're gonna beat them later in the season. I'm confident in that. I'll put money down on it. Um, and honestly, I'm looking at the Commanders game too, and they are a team who's also struggling with injuries right now, and kind of struggling to find a good, consistent footing, sitting at 2-2 right now. So that's also potentially a game that you could take from them. I mean, they've lost to Green Bay, who's a legitimate team, and they've lost to Atlanta this last week. Penix absolutely balled out. Now, they did have Marcus Mariota playing in those last two games as Jaden Daniels has been out. But they didn't really authoritatively beat the Giants. They won 21-6. They lost to the Packers, stomped the Raiders, which, I love Pete Carroll, but that Raiders team is not looking good right now. And then lost to Atlanta. So it's definitely a team that with a backup quarterback like Mariota can still put up points. But the question is, are they going to be able to put up points on teams that are not the Atlanta Falcons and the Las Vegas Raiders?
yeah. And it's still pretty early in the season, only a fourth of the way through, so you really don't know what a lot of these teams are going to become
Right.
the second half of the season. But it's always fun to look forward and to see what potentially lies ahead for the Seahawks based off of what we've kind of seen from these teams over the last few years and just overall talent that we know exists. And so a lot of fun stuff ahead. I think they're getting overshadowed a little bit right now by the fact that the Mariners made the playoffs. And I think a lot of people in Seattle, rightfully so, are focused on the Mariners. But I think it's important. Don't forget about what these Seahawks are doing right now and how impressive it is actually to be out on a 3-1 start, no matter what the competition are that you're playing. Um, Being able to win games on the road on short weeks is hard, no matter when it happens or who it happens against. So, shout out to the Seahawks for beating the Cardinals. Let's hope that the 10 weeks of prep on and the mini bye serves us well and that we're really prepared and we come out and we can compete with Tampa, who's right now probably the overwhelming favorite to win the NFC South and to get to
Mm-hmm.
host a playoff game. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we can do that. Seahawks fans, show up, be loud, don't sell your tickets, show up to the
Please.
game. Um, Hopefully there's not a conflict with the Mariners playoff game. I know that that's being tossed around right now. that would just be miserable because I feel like there's a lot of crossover between those two fan bases, and I don't want the players, the fan population to be split. We need both those stadiums to be full and loud this weekend to support to support our players. So let's get the job done against Tampa this weekend and just keep up the good momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we close everything out, we had a listener question come in. We've obviously haven't been putting up our normal questionnaire like we normally do, and that's on us, specifically on me. So that will start returning each week before podcast recordings of your guys' listener questions. But as always, if you guys have questions, we would love to respond to them if you send them in via YouTube. Spotify has a comment option that we often check. Obviously, nobody has left a comment there yet, but this is our first instance of somebody coming to us and asking a question, so we're very excited to be able to answer this question. This question was sent in on our YouTube video from last week from James Singletary, and he says, who do you think is the most underrated Seahawks player on this current roster? You want to take that question first?
Yeah, I kind of answered that earlier in the episode in the intro. I think it's Byron Murphy for a lot of the same reasons that I mentioned before. I just feel like he really is not getting as much love for the impact that he is making. I think a lot of the success of the edge rushers is from a result of increased attention being applied to him on the inside. So it's hard to get love as a nose tackle, but he is really having a great season, and he's still super young and has the sky is the limit for him as a player. So hopefully he can continue to figure it out and can piece together a full season where he's healthy this year.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm hoping he has a great sophomore year because he's been phenomenal so far. I had to split this into two answers because I have two people that come to mind, and I kind of also answered my first answer earlier in the episode. But defensively, I have to give underrated player to Josh Jobe. I think people are noticing him a lot more than people are noticing player like Byron Murphy. But I think it's incredible that from a national standpoint, he stepped in to take Witherspoon's spot and to kind of pick up the slack that Woolen's kind of struggling with, and he's done like phenomenal so far. Which is funny because if I had to pick between him or Pritchett for who I thought was going to perform better, I actually had Nehemiah Pritchett as somebody who I thought would perform better. But Josh Jobe has proven me wrong, and he's playing phenomenal so far. So defensively, he's my underrated player. Offensively, it's Robbie Oots. It's so fun to have a fullback, and so fun to see a fullback who's really good at blocking too. But Robbie Oots, I know he didn't play in the last game due to his injury, but he's been a fun conversation this year for Seahawks fans. And he's just such a cool guy and such a cool player and such an awesome person to have in the offensive scheme. So he's definitely my underrated player for the offense. Yeah, any final thoughts from you on the Seahawks or anything else before we close it out?
Nope, that's everything from me.
Awesome. Well, aside from the Seahawks, guys, last thing that I have, obviously, my name being that Kraken fan, I cover the Kraken. In case you didn't know, the Kraken are wrapping up their preseason. They've played 5 of their 6 games. They play their 6th one tomorrow on Wednesday, the 1st of October. Their regular season starts soon for those of you who are kind of out of the loop or not really noticing. But if you want another Seattle sports team to represent or support, just know that the Kraken are starting their games pretty soon. I believe October 8th is opening night and beginning of the season for the Kraken. And you can watch their games on Prime Video if you have a Amazon Prime Video subscription. They're right there. The broadcast quality has increased tenfold since Root Sports was in charge of that. And we have the best broadcasting team in the NHL. So it's always a fun time to watch. And they know that there's a lot of new fans because the Kraken are a relatively new team. So if a weird rule comes up or something, they've done a phenomenal job these past 5 years with explaining the rules and making sure everybody's understanding kind of what's going on. So just a little plug there for the Kraken. I feel like they sometimes go under the radar a little bit. But
also, shout out to the Sounders who clinched playoffs.
Oh, yes.
I know that saying the Sounders clinched playoffs is like saying the grass is green, but it's still impressive what they're able to do year in and year out. Now they're just playing for some seeding, and the playoffs. They have just 3 regular season matches left before we also get into the playoffs. So this is the busiest time of the year. All 4 sports are playing, whether in playoffs, into the regular season, preseason, middle of the regular season. Like, there's just everybody's doing everything right now. So yeah, if you ever got time, pretty much every night, especially on the weekends, there's something going on if you want to go out and support a team. So
And hopefully in a few years, we'll be looking forward to Supersonics opening night as well.
yes, sir.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. As always, you can contact us on Instagram or on YouTube. We'd love to hear your questions, comments, suggestions, or anything else you guys have to tell us about. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your love and support on the episode and on the channel, and we will see you in the next episode.